Hey, good morning. Patricia Murphy here. It's Saturday. This is Seattle Now. Today we're bringing you the best from the KUOW Newsroom. First up, the results of Washington's August 5th primary are now official. In Seattle, Council President Sara Nelson is fighting for her at-large seat against challenger Dionne Foster. One of the city's most vexing issues is what to do about addiction. Sara Nelson's personal experience with alcohol abuse and Foster's nonprofit background put their solutions at odds. Amy Radel reports.
When it comes to Seattle's strategy for people struggling with addiction, City Council member Sara Nelson refers to her own recovery from alcoholism as a touchstone. She says it's a journey that began abruptly during the depths of the pandemic.
I decided to check myself into treatment one day. It was actually September 24th, 2020, when I saw my son doing video on his cell phone, and he should have been in class on Zoom. And so I smashed his phone with a hammer. And I realized that that was an overreaction. And I had been drinking, and I decided that it was time to make a change.
Nelson went to a residential treatment facility in Kirkland. She found it so effective that she obtained $300,000 in city funds to offer free residential treatment for others. She's also pushed for sober housing for people in recovery. But as she faces a progressive challenger this election season, Nelson is stressing her support for a broad array of approaches, not just abstinence.
We're all wanting the same thing, I believe, which is recovery. Recovery doesn't necessarily have to imply abstinence. It really means helping people get their lives back together.
Nelson also helped fund mobile units for opioid treatment, like the one she visited on a recent weekday in Belltown. People enter and exit quickly as they meet with nurses and obtain doses of methadone. Sean Soth with Evergreen Treatment Services is showing Nelson how the process works.
They kind of manage the flow.
As she listens, Nelson tells Soth she was dismayed that the public health community didn't welcome her funding for free residential treatment. Soth says that funding wasn't well suited to the people he's trying to help. The problem is that residential facilities don't usually want to work with people on medications like methadone.
Oftentimes, inpatient facilities have been very, at least hesitant, if not outright, refuse our patient population.
But he says he'd be happy to work with her to address that. Nelson's support to make drug possession a gross misdemeanor in line with state law and to enact the SOTA, or Stay Out of Drug Area Ordinance, drew vocal opposition. Nelson says she wants these laws to steer people into diversion programs and away from areas with drug activity.
It's an alternative to incarceration. Just stay out of this area. And the benefit of that is that you do have to interrupt these areas where there is a very well-developed drug market.
Nelson's opponent this November is Dionne Foster, the former head of the Washington Progress Alliance, where she advocated for the state capital gains tax, among other issues. Foster opposes the stay out of drug area orders as ineffective.
I think the idea that prohibiting people from one particular geographic area is not a way to ensure that somebody gets access to a service. It is not a way to ensure that somebody gets housing. It is not a way to ensure that somebody gets treatment.
Foster says if elected, her focus would be to fund more capacity for outreach workers to help people struggling with addiction to obtain housing and other supports. Foster says she recently had an up-close encounter with the opioid crisis while she was out campaigning.
And a man came up to us, screaming for help and asking, does anybody have naloxone? His friend is overdosing.
Foster didn't have the overdose reversal drug naloxone with her that day. She carries it now. But she says she's excited about new strategies like the injectable buprenorphine used by the Downtown Emergency Service Center to help people reduce their fentanyl use without the excruciating withdrawal.
I think we're in this moment where we're seeing new innovations, right? And they're coming from here, which is, I think that's really important.
As for Nelson's pilot program to pay for residential treatment, Foster says she'd like to see more data before it's expanded. Amy Radel, KUOW News.
For our next story, we'll head north to Blaine, Washington. The town sits right on the Canadian border. Through the years, Blaine has formed deep ties and a critical economic relationship with Canada, but the Trump presidency has changed a lot. Canadians are spending less in America, in border towns like Blaine. Northwest Public Broadcasting's Jenna Dennison went to Blaine to explore this turn and its effects on Blaine's businesses.
You can tell Blaine Washington is a border town. American and Canadian flags wave from the town's flagpoles. The town is home to the Peace Arch, an over 65-foot-tall white arch that sits on the U.S.-Canada border. The local high school's mascot is the Borderite. Blaine is about a 2-hour drive north of Seattle. It's also about 30 miles south of Vancouver, British Columbia. But things are changing here in this town of about 6,000 people. Earlier this year, President Donald Trump made comments about making Canada the, quote, 51st state. That's making some Canadians feel a certain way.
I just find it very disrespectful.
That's Ellen visiting Peace Arch State Park from Surrey, BC. And the Trump administration has imposed tariffs on Canada. In response, Canada hit back with tariffs of its own. And there's the Buy Canadian movement. Bradley Miller is an associate professor in the University of British Columbia's History Department.
Canadians on the American political spectrum would be mostly left of center. So your Republican presidents are less popular here than your Democratic presidents. But like nothing in my lifetime parallels the vitriol that Canadians now feel about Donald Trump.
U.S. Customs and Border Protection reports that in June of this year, about a third fewer travelers by car and on foot made trips into Blaine than in June 2024. Canada's statistical agency reports similar data about return trips from Canadians in that same time frame. A lot of locals and visitors stop by Hill's Chevron in downtown Blaine. It's a gas station and gift shop. Inside, there's all the typical finds: soda, candy, chips. There's also lots of Blaine trinkets and souvenirs, like kitchen towels and sweatshirts emblazoned with Blaine's zip code.
It's always been a big joke that you can come here and get like a case of beer and a wedding gift all in the same place, and to fill up your tank of gas.
That's Amber Ingersoll, the purchaser at Hill's. Mike Hill has owned this place for more than 30 years.
Just gas sales right now have been pretty tough because we're down 60%, That's a lot.
Hill thinks the drop is due to Canadians paying fewer taxes on their fuel than they used to. For instance, British Columbia's consumer carbon tax was repealed in April. It used to be a better deal to buy gas in the States. So for Hills, it was big business. But other than that, he says the store is doing great, even if there have been fewer tourists.
We love the Canadians. We've never had an issue, and we got a president there that's really stirring up the world, which I honestly believe it's all going to turn out for the best. But there's going to be turmoil for a while, and it's who can hang in there.
Inside Paso del Norte, a local Mexican restaurant, owner Miguel Ramos says he has loyal Canadian customers. But
and some customers, they have say, we don't come down because of the new rules, regulations, and we don't like somebody that we don't know. And, like I told him, it's like, we're not even related, we don't even know the guy. So
Ramos has had to deal with a lot of hits recently. A drop in visitors isn't helping.
And our business was slow from the year before to this year. It's about 30%. It's about $1,000 plus a day that we're not selling.
And the future may still hold uncertainty. Here's Miller, the UBC professor again.
The cultural impact on Canadians' views of spending any money in the United States, that's been unprecedented.
On this summer afternoon, Blaine does feel a little emptier than it has in the past. I'm Jenna Dennison in Blaine, Washington.
We'll close things out in the central Washington town of Quincy. Farming was once the backbone here and of towns like it, but now a new industry is moving in, tech company data centers, and the reviews are mixed. Some praise the jobs and investment in their town, while others fear these centers aren't the job creators they claim to be and are taking a dangerous environmental toll. Monica Nicholsberg went to Quincy to see for herself.
Ryan Bebout works for Sabi Data Centers, and he's giving a tour of their newest building.
250 people work in this facility.
It's a sprawling campus in the farming town of Quincy, Washington. We spot a data center technician between rows of servers lit up in orange and blue.
We've either installing a new server or he's troubleshooting an existing server.
This job pays about $60,000 a year to start, and it doesn't require a college degree, says Bebout. That's nearly double the individual median income for Quincy, where a lot of people still work in farming and food processing. Data centers like this make everything from ChatGPT to online medical records possible. And to towns like Quincy, they offer the promise of a new industrial anchor, bringing jobs and tax revenue.
First time ever in my history of living in Quincy, we had a full police force because they could afford it.
Lisa Karstetter, who grew up nearby, says she's seen the benefit of the data centers in the years since the first one went up in 2007. She's now Microsoft's community advocate in the area. The data centers pay about 75% of Quincy's property taxes.
New fire station, new library. You had all of these things come in that could support the agriculture. It really was a beautiful marriage.
It's also the story of her own marriage. Her husband is a farmer. Data center taxes helped fund a new hospital and high school. Its state-of-the-art amenities serve about 850 students, most of whom qualify for free or reduced lunch.
It wouldn't have been possible without the data center presence here.
That's Superintendent Nick Bergman watching summer volleyball practice in the high school's shiny new gymnasium.
Very, very big sports town. I mean, you come here on a Friday night basketball game, it will be completely full.
Quincy High also has a new vocational program where kids can study everything from fire science to sports medicine. If students want to go into one of the two big industries in town, they can take a data center technician track.
They can earn a certificate and go working directly in the data centers out of the high school.
Or study agriculture, which includes raising pigs and goats in the 4-H barn. There's no shortage of farming jobs in Quincy, but it's unclear how many data center jobs will be available to these students in the coming years. While the data centers are being built, there are thousands of jobs in construction, but each building can run with less than 50 technicians, according to Microsoft. To maintain the job gains the region has seen over the past 2 decades, the data center industry needs to continue growing here.
It's great to look at the economic benefits. That's a snapshot in time. That's something you benefit from right now. The question is, what's the long-term effect?
That's local environmental activist and former mayor Patty Martin. So far, the Columbia River has sustained the growth of these data centers. Its dams supply cheap, clean, abundant energy and water for cooling them. But Martin worries about increasingly less snowpack to feed the river as the climate gets warmer. In this county, all the energy and water are already maxed out, and Martin thinks the data centers will get priority over residents.
They're going to run because they have sensitive information, right? You don't cool it, it's going to overheat, you're going to burn it up. You turn off the power, it's going to go away. So it's all about the data centers.
The Grant County Public Utility District says that's not a big concern because it has the ability to buy more power on the open market at peak usage times. But some of that power comes from fossil fuels and may soon be off the table. A state law requires utilities to be carbon neutral in 5 years and run exclusively on renewables by 2045. Local officials are pushing to make an exception for natural gas to provide additional power for data centers. And Martin worries that could undermine the state's progress on climate action.
I'm concerned that as that electrical energy need expands, that there is no type of electrical production that would be off the table.
Companies like Microsoft say they're investing heavily in renewable technologies like fusion to bring more clean power generation online. But in the meantime, businesses and workers that rely on the data center building boom fear a slowdown. Pat Gallatin is an electrician who came to Quincy for what seemed like limitless job opportunities building data centers. He stopped by monkeying around pizza for the Electrician Union's weekly Brotherhood Night.
The first data center I worked on here was in 2006 or 5. And it was a sleepy little farming community. And since then, I bet you there's 20 data centers or better in the area.
It's the kind of gold rush that leads a whole host of businesses to crop up, like the pizza joint that hosts this event every week. Cheryl Smith is the owner, and she says she's nervous about a building slowdown.
I'm not from here either, so my connections are the construction workers. So that's it's really scary.
Like anyone who's come to rely on the data center boom, she fears all gold rushes end eventually. For NPR News, I'm Monica Nicholsberg in Quincy.
Thanks for listening to Seattle Now. Our production team includes Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, Andy Hurst, Vaughn Jones, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you soon.